Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 171 of Speaking from the Heart. Today, we're going to talk about how you start over. And I know that this topic is probably very timely, especially for those that might be heading into Thanksgiving with a sense of worry, with a sense of uncertainty, with a sense of wondering how you might be received at the Thanksgiving table this year, because you might have been through quite a lot of different changes. Maybe there are some things that were so dramatic that happened this year that you feel like the dinner table where you're going to be eating Thanksgiving dinner at is going to be a little bit different this year. It might not be around the same people that you used to hang around. Maybe there are other people that are joining you for the first time, not knowing who you are, not sure of what to expect from you, and maybe you've heard some things about you that are not true. They're just simply false. And I know that, especially with this imposter syndrome that we have in Thanksgiving world, we often have to change our perspectives. We have to change our ways in which we engage with people. We have to put on a different face, a different mask, if you will. But in this episode today, I really want to get to the heart of how you can push forward, but also know that there needs to be an extension of a hand being reached out, helping you to get to that next level, to help you feel like you're not overextending yourself, feeling strained. Because being able to start over, being able to create that new beginning is quite a lot of work. Some people think that it's just about snapping your fingers, pushing aside what has happened in the past, and moving forward. But it's not quite like that. Finding normalcy, finding something in which you can hold on to, especially when all the tangents, all the different things that are changing around you are happening, it's not quite easy to portray. There's no immediate answer that might come to mind either, especially when you're trying to figure out what it means to hang around these new individuals in your life, what it means to have new routines, maybe a new job, maybe you relocated to a whole other place, maybe it's some other city, maybe it's in a whole new country. Regardless of what it is, creating a new beginning means that you also have to create a new version of yourself and ditching what has happened in the past so that you can find that place to move forward, so that you have that next rung in the ladder in which you're able to climb. But we have to start somewhere with this conversation, and there is no better place to start than knowing what your purpose is. Sure, maybe in your last relationship, maybe in that big tumultuous time in your life in which you're moving on from, you couldn't figure out what that purpose was. You were distracted from the things that were happening around you. I know for me, especially when I moved out of my parents' place as soon as I was done with my first master's degree back in 2010, meant that in the next few months I needed to find a place, be able to make enough money so that I could pay my student loans, which were tumultuous in itself, but also feel like I was stable enough to move from where I was and find that American dream, being able to live on my own. Little did I know that it came with a lot more responsibility, finding out that I needed to pay for XYZ on my own, knowing that that sense of loneliness on some nights was because I didn't have a great network of friends to start out. It also meant that I was learning about myself in ways that it was challenging me and my own perspectives. But I know that even as I've grown older, some of those things can still be a challenge. And apparently, the economy and the things that have happened in this world do not make it any easier for somebody that is still trying to get through the day-to-day of life. How we were able to build that energy, that momentum is really important, especially when we're talking about this context, because that means that you have to hold on to something. Whether that's your own faith, whether that is something that you are able to see deep inside yourself so that you are able to move forward, regardless of what it might mean, expanding that creativity, the positivity that you have inside yourself means that you have to get through the valleys that you're crossing so that you can get to the very top of the mountain where you feel like you're at your very best. But I digress. My experiences growing up in my 20s, even into my early 30s, did not make this experience very easy, especially for a millennial like myself. But even regardless of what you might view it as, especially from a generational difference, we all know that when we go through something that is very tough, when it's challenging who we are deep inside of ourselves, it also means that we have to self reflect on what we've done right, what we have done wrong, and what we possibly could have done differently in the first place. So, before you even do anything when it comes to sitting down with others at the Thanksgiving table, think about how you want to be viewed. Knowing your purpose now, especially after you've been through such a tough period in your life or have gone through a great transition, means that you have to create this manifestation on your own. Sure, coaches like myself can help you with that exercise, possibly setting goals, possibly helping you to visualize what it looks like to be on the other side of what you've been through. But more importantly, being able to move forward past all these different experiences, all these different types of attitude adjustments, all these different things that can create manifestations of negativity, mean that you have to now set yourself to higher limits, to higher aims, if you will, to be able to provide for yourself and yourself. Now, you might be asking, wait, did you just repeat yourself? Don't you mean just yourself? Truth be told, there really are two different conflicts that are happening. And in psychology, you might have heard of this from a Sigmund Freud perspective of the id and the ego. And then there's the superego and all these different other concepts. But let's just make this simple. There is the version of yourself that really desires what you really want, whether that is sex, appreciation, relationships, whatever that might be. But there's also that deeper thought, that ability to see in yourself what it is that you really want to manifest, what you really have as higher aims, whether that's from an educational perspective, whether that's from a job perspective, whether that's even just the sense of belonging in a familial type of relationship, a husband, a wife, kids, regardless of what that might be. The concept of being able to manifest this means that you have to start somewhere, and purpose helps us to create that context, that direction in which we're able to push. So if you haven't figured out where you want to push in your life, start simple. Write down what it is that you really want to live life for. Maybe it is for your kids. Maybe it is for yourself because that's all you have to worry about right now because you're young. And that's perfectly all right too if it's just you. Maybe it's for your dog, your goldfish, perhaps. Regardless of what it might be, we all have a desire of wanting to go a direction that we always wanted to go. The enduring question of how we start over means that we also look at not just the purpose, but how much we're really willing to feed into this. How much are we really able to pour into the day-to-day, making ourselves feel better and better and better? Different perspectives, especially traveling across the world, which we just had Monica Mangelson on the show talking about this in her own digital nomad journey, really exemplifies how we can even have this from a whole international perspective. If you do have the ability to travel, go and see how people live different lifestyles. Some of them are living it really fast, wanting to get a lot done. Some of them are taking it at an average pace. And then some people are taking it very, very slowly. And there's nothing wrong with being a little slow to make your point come across. But even then, if you wanted me to talk at a faster speed, and I'm sure that you really sped up through that last part, you have to learn how to be able to work at your own pacing. I think that we're always swayed by what everybody else is doing, thinking that we need to be where they're at. And that's why when we try to create this manifestation of a new beginning, we have to go super fast because we have to catch up to everybody else. But I have learned, even through my own experiences, that that is not necessarily true. What I thought I had to do over and over again, especially after I moved out of my parents' place, meant that I needed to also compensate for all the other things that they were doing for me. So it did make me slower. I had to learn some of the things that they've already been doing for many, 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 many years. And they didn't learn the same way that I had to learn because I had to go through my own hurdles, my own experiences. You see where I'm coming at? We all learn at different rates because of all the different things that happen to us. So give yourself some grace. Give yourself that ability to say that it's okay to go slow through this time period because, let's face it, we're not super fast sometimes when we're learning something new. It might take us a few tries before we actually master it. It might take us a few more obstacles to overcome, and that other person might have never had to deal with, but yet we have to deal with it now because we never learned from our parents, our grandparents, mentors, coaches, teachers, whoever that might be. And as a result of that, we have to learn some grace. The last thing I have to say about this subject, which really ties it all together, is that when we are feeling like the end of the world is happening because we're not getting to where we need to be, we're not getting to exactly where these situations should have been in the first place, we have to be able to stop completely and ask ourselves, what is it that we need to do now to change our ability so that we are not leading down that same path that we once were, repeating the same old mistakes that got us there in the first place. When I tried to end my life almost 5 years ago now, I had to relearn many of the things, many of the bad habits that I thought were the right things to do. Some of those examples included the way in which I processed negativity, how I had relationships with women, how I had to deal with my own struggles of self-confidence, imposter syndrome, let alone my own negativity about what other people would say, think, or do about me, but also work through some of the most toughest shit that nobody I would ever wish on my worst enemy had to go through. I had to struggle. But I also know that as I continued to build this whole new beginning for myself, which included opening this business, extending myself into the podcast, and expanding my ever-growing portfolio of services, I had to learn that it's okay to fail, that it's okay that people might not agree with me, that it's okay that even when things are really tough, I know that I can get to the other side. That personal vendetta for myself, which I thought I had something to prove, was starting to wash away in my own life. Every single time that I took a big step back, I realized that I was doing the same things that I was doing before. I had to relearn some of those bad habits so that I could learn good habits to create that new beginning too. But all that I had to do was make sure that I had the right influences, the right people, the right words being said to me, but also having an open heart and an open mind to have that willingness to change. And I have to say, if it wasn't for people like you, my listeners, let alone all the people that I've had on this show, I would not be half the person that I am today. And that, in itself, shows that progress comes in many leaps and forms. And no matter what anybody might say to you, it's okay if you need that extra hand or that extra extension to be able to say to yourself, you are worthy. I think that we try to aim for perfection when we try to start over, which is why it's so hard to then get people on the same page as you. Which is why, especially in times like this that we're going through this year, it can be very tough. And I know that the past few weeks have been even more challenging for some people over others because of not only the things that have happened in this world, especially this past month, but also how we feel about each other, how we're able to feel like we're not making any progress, how we can overcome these stereotypical attitudes and behaviors that we often fall into, that basic primal instinct. But as one of the things that I've learned about life and even working with my clients It's about not only just perspective, it's also about how we can learn from each other how to become better human beings, giving ourselves grace when we're starting over, but also reflecting on what is right, wrong, and indifferent so that we can become better individuals, so that we can become the best versions of ourselves. Whenever you see someone ever in your life again after listening to today's episode going through a whole new beginning, do me a favor. Watch them. If they fall, help them pick themselves back up. If you see them do something wrong, help them with correcting why that was wrong and being patient and kind with them. But also, as Mr. Fred Rogers would say, especially when he invited others in the neighborhood, have a cup of coffee ready for them. Have tea, have cookies, regardless of what it is. Have a graceful, charitable heart to be able to share what might come on their mind and be simple in terms of the lessons that they can learn from you. Even if you think you have nothing to share, trust me, you have a lot to share. And as I've even said in other episodes, what you might have to share on your heart might be much greater and much bigger, especially as I shared with you in a previous episode about James Doohan, the character from Star Trek, playing Engineer Scotty, was able to share so much perspective in the fan who has been able to save their life because of the impact he had, which he didn't even realize he was able to do. That person was able to restart their life. They were able to ask that question and get a whole new beginning. So why not you? If you're one of those that is on the fence, or you know somebody that's on the fence of wanting to change their lives, just know that if you create a space, you create an environment in which they're able to learn from each other, to learn how to grow, to be able to begin that whole new journey, you're not only doing them a service, but you're also doing yourself a service. You're helping a whole new generation and a whole new set of people become the best versions of themselves. And it's pretty damn rewarding when you're able to have that voice that is saying to yourself, I am worthy, instead of saying, I am not worthy. Who would have ever thought that characters in our lives, all the people, whether they're past, present, or future, can have such an immediate impact? Because once you find your purpose, once you figure out what it is that you really want to do, even if you take a long time to get to it, and even if you have to stop and reflect, remember, the whole world is your oyster. And I think it's pretty amazing when you find that pearl inside that oyster that you can show others and be able to help them become not just better, but also helping them with a hand extended out to carry them wherever they want to go. Thanks for listening to episode number 171 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.